What does the Office of Accessibility do, and how do I sign up? A lot of times in graduate school, people who thought that they did not need accommodations find that because of the workload and the multitasking that needs to be done, that accommodations are needed. So for the first time for many people, they may need accommodations. So it's important for you to know what this process is and what possible accommodations are. For a lot of us, like me, I had received accommodations from the time I was in the third grade. So it was really important to continue these as I went on in my education career. What services for students with disabilities are there? The accommodations and services is really dependent on the disability and the documentation, as well as how the disability interacts with the environment. So somebody may have a similar kind of disability, but they may not always get the same kind of accommodations. It's not a one size fits all situation. But in general, some of the accommodations might include books in e-text, testing accommodations, note-taking or scribes, materials in Braille, alternative media or formats, assistive technology, accommodations in field experience. So this might include practicum, internship, or field work experience like going in student teaching. And also, most importantly, support and advocacy from the Office of Accessibility. How do I sign up? There are the intake forms that are offered on the Alliant site. So if you go to alliant.edu and type in Office of Accessibility, that will lead you to the Office of Accessibility homepage, as well as the forms that you will need to fill out. Once this is done, you'll also need to present the documentation from your doctor or whatever professional person you are getting your documentation for. This differs based on what your disability is. So if it is a medical disability, it's likely to be a physician. If it is a psychiatric disability, then it's probably going to be a psychologist, an MFT, or a psychiatrist. So it really depends on the disability. And once you have all of that, you'll arrange a meeting with the Office of Accessibility coordinator on your campus and develop an accommodation plan. And with this, you will receive an agreement of disability-related accommodations, as well as a letter to give to your instructors. It's important for students to know what their responsibilities are. A primary responsibility is to request accommodations 2 to 3 weeks ahead of time. This includes presenting a letter of accommodation to the faculty, and we'll be getting into this later on in the workshop as well. And to contact the Office of Accessibility for accommodations like scribes or media in alternative formats. It's important to know that sometimes it can be difficult to schedule scribes, or it can be difficult to request alternative formats. So it's really important that you get this information to your office coordinator as soon as possible. And most importantly, if you encounter any kinds of difficulties in getting or receiving your accommodations, or you're not having your needs met, please contact the Office of Accessibility Services at any time. Now, a lot of times you may come up with an accommodation plan that works, but then there may be a bump and you find that the accommodations that you have are no longer applicable. That's when it's really important to contact the Office of Accessibility and schedule an appointment to discuss this. You can look up the Office of Accessibility services on your campus and find the person who you will need to talk to. In this section of the workshop, I have included the link so that you can find the person on your campus that you can work with. What about requests for retroactive accommodations? I've included this slide early on in the presentation because you should know that there are no retroactive accommodations. You have the right to request a disability-related accommodation at any time, and accommodations begin when the student is determined to be eligible for services. But faculty and schools are not required to grant retroactive accommodations at any time. So it's really important to know what your needs are, because you can accommodate them for the future, but you can't go back and say something like, I didn't do well on this test because I didn't get accommodations, without having already disclosed that information. So if you think that you'll need accommodations, it's best to get this done as early as possible.